Hi, friends. I'm Scott Giles, and welcome to Power Talk, my podcast here on Facebook Live and YouTube. I cover topics related to spirituality, hypnocoaching, and the hypnotic arts and sciences generally. If you want to know more about my professional work, check out my website, which I'll tag at the end of this video. Today, I want to talk about the coming Great Resignation. Now, prophecy is always dangerous and doesn't have a great track record, and I'm engaging in a little bit of prophecy here today, but I think it makes a point, and it's a phenomena that may be very positive for our culture. Anthony Klaus, Kloz, in INC Magazine this week, wrote an article about this, and what he said is that as the pandemic ends, and companies are calling laid off workers back to work, what a lot of them are discovering is the workers don't want to come back or come back with a list of preconditions that have to be met before they will be willing to come back. And Klotz estimates that maybe 30% of the workforce is going to resign over the next 6 months to a year and change jobs. What made this so striking to me is that one of my clients, a long-term client who's a highly placed executive in the corporate world, told me that the corporate world knows this and is in fact bracing for it, at least among their highest performing people. Workers are simply not willing to come back post-pandemic to the status quo because the status quo that they had before the pandemic was abusive. They have had the chance during the time when they've either been working remotely or doing something else to get perspective on their work and the value of their labor, and they've simply discovered that they're not willing to remain wage slaves. They want to continue to work remotely, and if a company will not let them, they'll find another company that will. Now, the way I relate to some of this comes out of my background as a chef and in the hospitality and culinary industry. Now, obviously, we don't work remotely in those industries, but there have been long-standing issues of fairness in that industry. For example, the people who work in the front of the house, the host or hostesses, the maitre d', the service personnel, these people get tip income. Now, they're paid a lower wage because of that, but the tip income in a well-performing restaurant more than offsets that low wage. And so in a good restaurant, a waiter or waitress can be earning the equivalent of $25, $30 an hour working in pleasant conditions. Yeah, you got to carry a tray and deal with people, but the place is air conditioned and you're not worried about someone losing their temper and stabbing you on the whole. But in the back of the house, where the chefs and cooks are, these people are working in volcanic heat, they're working under intense pressure, they're working to perfectionistic standards, crafting the food that the people doing the tipping are enjoying. Tempers are short, you do get fights, and there are plenty of knives lying around, and I've seen more than one knife fight at a restaurant where I was working. Yet these people who are actually doing the highly skilled work, many of them had to go to culinary school to learn how to do that work, they're often being paid little more than minimum wage. So you have the semi-skilled people in the front of the house earning vastly more than the highly skilled people in the back of the house who are actually doing the difficult work. And what restaurants are discovering now is they're calling these people back as they're ramping up their service, and their chefs and cooks are saying they don't want to come back. They went and got jobs at an Amazon fulfillment center, and they're earning way more per hour under nicer working conditions. This has given rise to some people saying that the restaurant industry doesn't have a worker shortage, it has a wage shortage. Now, I'm a serious and committed foodie. I've taken people out to some of the nicest restaurants in the United States, and sometimes they are astonished at the cost of those meals. And the thing I say about that is that, I don't go into a restaurant that I doesn't know is treating its staff well. And this is what fair food costs. For example, Charlie Trotter's restaurant, a famous restaurant here in America, located in Chicago for many years until Chef Trotter died. Um, it's pricey, but every single person working front or back of the house receives a living wage. Everyone's got a 401k. Everyone's got health insurance. This is what fair food costs. You have to charge this if you're going to treat the workers well. And I think what we're starting to see is some restaurants realizing that they're going to have to correct this structural inequality. And what I say is abolish tipping, raise the prices, and give everyone a living wage. Fair food. But that's an example of people coming back from the pandemic and saying, no, I'm not going to tolerate the status quo that I experienced before I left because of the pandemic. It wasn't fair. It wasn't right. I'm worth better. That is a good thing, regardless of what industry you're in. The best performing workers will have this choice because they will have leverage. They can go elsewhere or they can get a better job that doesn't abuse them in the way the previous job did. They've had the awareness raised, and because their awareness has been raised, they're no longer willing to buy the managerial con that that's all they're worth. And they've resolved to demand better treatment. I wish all workers in every industry would do that. I think the profiteering that goes on in American companies and corporations where people are asked to do, difficult work for what amounts to bullshit wages, while the moneyed aristocracy pull off all the cream for themselves. This is a basic inequality, and perhaps the great resignation will cause companies to rethink that. If 30% of your workforce says up yours and they leave, your company's going to close. And that may force a redefinition of the American workplace. I hope so. Now, of course, not all workers are going to do this. Many can't due to practical circumstances. But I hope that enough will, that we will see a change caused in the American working culture. I come from a blue-collar background and a blue-collar family, in fact, blue-collar or less. I know how hard those people work and how difficult it is. They're nickel and dimed, how difficult it is to get ahead. Let's resolve as a nation as we come out of this pandemic to do better. And I predict that smart companies will capitalize on this. They will provide remote work or better autonomy or better wages as perks, and they'll get the good people. Bad companies will not, and they will not have the happiest or best workers, and they will be disadvantaged in the marketplace. One of the greatest chefs I worked with when I was doing my apprenticeship said that, happy kitchens are productive kitchens. And smart restaurants make sure the people in their kitchens are happy. That's true of companies too. Smart companies make sure that their workers are happy with the job they have. And if they're happy, they'll do better work. That's a good thing. A good thing that could come out of this awful pandemic we've all been through. Hey, thank you for your time and attention today. I'll be back next week with another talk on a different subject, and I'd like to invite you to join me. It does help me if you let others know about my videos, so please like, share, and subscribe. If I can be of help to you, feel free to reach out through email, my website, or my Patreon channel. And if you're one of the people locked into a abusive job that isn't fulfilling you and you don't know how to get out of it, let me suggest that consulting a good hypnotist can be absolutely transformative for your self-confidence. And self-confident people very often get what they want. Hey, stay well and stay safe.